Hello everyone, I am Dr. VRAO. Today I am here with a new concept that is salt hydrolysis. Before we are going to learn about salt hydrolysis, first we should know what is meant by salt and different types of salts. So, in this video we are going to learn about what is meant by salt and what are the different types of salts. Okay. So, salt. By the definition of salt, the substance which does not release either H plus ions or OH minus ions in its first ionization is called salt. I repeat, a substance which does not release either H plus ions or OH minus ions in its first ionization is called salt. Okay. So, for example, sodium chloride. Another example is barium chloride, and one more example is calcium chloride. All these are salts. Why? Because on its first ionization, for example, if you take sodium chloride, on its first ionization it releases Na plus and Cl minus ions. That is, in its first ionization which does not release either H plus ions or OH minus ions. Okay. Instead of on its first ionization it releases Na plus ion and Cl minus ion. That is, on its first ionization it does not release H plus ions or OH minus ions. Instead of that, that release Na plus ion and Cl minus ion. Similarly, barium chloride on its first ionization it releases barium plus 2 ion and 2 Cl minus ions. This also on its first ionization does not release either H plus ions or OH minus ions. Instead of H plus or OH minus ions, instead of that ions it releases barium plus 2 ion and 2 Cl minus ions. Similarly, calcium chloride on its first ionization it releases calcium plus 2 ion and 2 Cl minus ions. Okay. So, these are the compounds which does not release either H plus ions or OH minus ions on their first ionization. So, a salt is a compound which does not release either H plus ions or OH minus ions in its first ionization. Okay. So, I repeat, you should keep this point in your mind. Salt is a substance which does not release either H plus ions or OH minus ions in its first ionization. Okay. Now, we shall see various types of salts. Salts, different types of salts. Based on the nature of this salt, I repeat, based on the nature of this salt, salts are classified into 5 types. One is normal salt. And the second one is acidic salt. The second one is acidic salt, and the third one is basic salt, and the fourth one is mixed salt, and fifth one is double salt, and of course there is another type of salt is there, okay, that is a complex salt. Okay, so salts are basically salts are 5 types. So complex salt, this will be studied in a separate salt, because in coordination compounds. Okay, so salts are 5 types. So one is normal salt. Normal salt is one which does not release okay, which does not release either H plus ions or OH minus ions in any of its ionization. Okay, I repeat, normal salt is a substance, is a salt which does not release either H plus ions or OH minus ions in any of its ionization. For example, examples for normal salt are sodium chloride and sodium sulfate, KCl, okay, calcium chloride, etc., etc. So if you take NaCl, Na2SO4, potassium chloride, calcium chloride, okay, there are lot of examples for normal salt. Okay, so normal salt. Okay, what is meant by normal salt? The substance which does not release either H plus ions or OH minus ions in any of its ionization. For example, if you take sodium chloride, on its first ionization, it forms, it releases Na plus and Cl minus ions. Okay, so there is no chance to undergo further ionization. And if you take sodium sulfate, Na2SO4, Na2SO4, on its first ionization, it forms Na plus NaSO4, SO4 minus that is NaSO4 plus Na plus. Okay, and on its second ionization, it forms Na plus and SO4 2 minus. So this is the first ionization and this is the second ionization. So on its first ionization, it does not release H plus ions, and of course in the second ionization it does not release H plus ions or OH minus ions. So such type of salts are normal salts. Okay, so next, and acidic salt, and the second one is acidic salt. Acidic salt, these are the salts, acidic salts, these are the salts which releases H plus ions in other than first ionization. I repeat, acidic salts are the salts which releases H plus ions in other than its first ionization. Okay, I repeat, acidic salt is a salt which releases H plus ions other than in first ionization. That means it does not release H plus ions in first ionization, but in the subsequent ionizations it releases H plus ions. For example, for acidic salt is NaHSO4, sodium bisulfate, okay, and sodium bisulfite, and NaH2PO4, sodium dihydrogen phosphate. For example, if you take sodium bisulfate, NaHSO4, on its first ionization, on its first ionization it releases Na plus and HSO4 minus ions. So this is the first ionization. On its first ionization it does not release H plus ions, okay, but in the second ionization it releases H plus ions and SO4 2 minus. So acidic salt releases H plus ions in the second ionization, that is not in the first ionization, okay. So acidic salt is the salt, okay, which releases H plus ions other than in first ionization, right, okay. So basic salt. Basic salt. Basic salt. Basic salts are the salts which releases OH minus ions other than in first ionization. Okay, I repeat, basic salts are the salts which releases OH minus ions other than first ionization. For example, examples for MgOHBr, CaOHCd. Okay, there are several examples for that. Okay, for example, if you take MgOHBr, on its first ionization it forms it releases Mg plus OH plus Br minus, okay, and in the second ionization it forms Mg plus 2 plus OH minus ion. So in the second ionization it releases OH minus ions, okay. So in the first ionization it does not release OH minus ions, but in the second ionization it releases OH minus ions. So basic salts are the salts which releases OH minus ions other than first ionization, okay. So and the third one is the fourth one is mixed salt. That is mixed salt. These are the salts formed by the combination of one acid with two bases or one base with two acids. I repeat, these are the salts formed by the combination of one acid with two bases or one base with two acids. For example, if you take oxalic acid, this is the one acid. When it combines with two bases, that is KOH and NaOH, it forms COOK and COONA plus 2H2O. This is called mixed salt. This is called mixed salt, okay. And one more example is this is the acid, and if you take base, one base with two acids, CaOH, this is the base, and it combines with two acids, that is HCl, HOCl, okay. It forms CaOCl and CaCl H2O. So CaCl and CaOCl plus 2H2O. Okay, this is the example for these are the examples for mixed salts. Okay, and besides this normal salt, acidic salt, basic salt, mixed salt, there are double salts and complex salts. These salts will be discussed. I shall discuss these salts in the coordination compounds. Okay, I will discuss these type of salts in the coordination chemistry, coordination compounds. Okay, in future I shall make videos on this double salt and complex salts and coordination compounds. Okay, so based on the nature of the salt, salts are classified into mainly 5 types. What is normal salt, acidic salt, basic salt, mixed salt, double salt. Okay, complex salts are nothing but complex compounds which will be discussed in coordination compounds. Okay, and there is another classification for salts. Okay, so this is the one type of classification, and there is another classification, that is okay, and another classification. As we are all know, salts are formed by the reaction between acids and bases. When acid reacts with base, it forms a salt. Okay, so we are all know very well about that salts are formed by the reaction between acids and bases. Okay, so based on the strength of acid and bases, salts are classified into 4 types. I repeat, we are all know salts are formed by the reaction between acids and bases. Okay, so based on the strength of acid and bases, salts are classified into 4 types. Okay, so first type of salt is salt of strong acid and strong base. Salts of strong acid and strong base. Okay, so what are strong acids? Strong acids are HCl. Strong base is NaOH. So salt formed by the strong acid as a strong base is sodium chloride. And there are several examples. H2SO4 is a strong acid, and strong base NaOH is a strong base. It can form Na2SO4. So it is 2 moles of NaOH, Na2SO4. Okay, this is a salt of strong acid and strong base. Okay, so next, salts of weak acid and strong base. Salts of weak acid and strong base. Okay, what are the weak acids? Example for weak acid is acetic acid, CH3COOH, and strong base example is NaOH. So combination of weak acid and strong base, what is the salt that can be formed from weak acid and strong base? That is CH3COONA. It is a salt of weak acid and strong base. Okay, and salts of strong acid plus weak base. Strong acid plus weak base. Okay, so strong acid is HCl, weak base is NH4OH. Okay, so what is the salt formed by the strong acid and weak base? NH4Cl. NH4Cl. Okay, and salts of and the fourth type is salts of weak acid plus weak base. Okay, weak acid example is acetic acid, and weak base is NH4OH. So, the salt formed by the NH4, and weak acid is HCN, or so several lot of examples are there, NH4CN, for example, NH4 weak acid is HCN is a weak acid, HCN is a weak acid, and weak base NH4OH is a weak base. So, salt is NH4CN. So, these are the 4 types of salts: salts of strong acid and strong base, salts of weak acid, strong base, salts of strong acid, weak base, and salts of weak acid plus weak base. Okay. So, these are the different types of salts. So, in this video we came to know that what is meant by salt, and we came to know the different types of salts. Okay. And based on the nature of the salt and based on the strength of the acid and bases, we came to know the different types of salts. In the next video, now we are able to understand salt hydrolysis. So, I shall come up with salt hydrolysis, concept of salt hydrolysis in the next video. Thank you.